The strangest things that have washed up on a beach.
We all love to walk along the beach, feeling the sand and the seawater foaming underneath our feet, creating an atmosphere of harmony and peace. Unless while walking on the beach you come across something like a ghost ship, or a bottle with a message sealed inside of it that had washed up on the beach. What would your reaction be if you saw such a ghost ship appear one day on a beach near you? Would you explore it? Or would you leave it to the authorities to find out what happened? Let us know in the comments below. Considering that almost 10,000 containers are lost at sea each year, very interesting things can be found washed up on beaches across the globe. So, without any further delay, here are some of the strangest things that washed up on the beach. Let's go. 10. Sports fly swatters. Thousands of accidental container spills occur in the Pacific Ocean every year, as loads and loads of commercial goods make their way from Asia to the West. While the lost cargo is seriously adding to the ocean's pollution problem, there is one silver lining. It could make you the owner of a free, slightly beat up fly swatter. In 2012, residents of Kodiak, Alaska became exactly that when they eagerly gathered up sports-themed fly swatters that were washing up by the dozens onto their beach. Both professional and collegiate teams were represented, ensuring that every kind of sports fan could plaster his or her favorite team with fly guts. At first, the Alaskans thought that the swatters were debris from the previous year's tsunami, but it later turned out that they came from a run-of-the-mill cargo ship, which had lost several containers after a rogue wave hit the vessel. 9. Rubber ducks. Of all the things that could fall off a cargo ship, arguably the cutest was a crate of 28,000 rubber ducks and other bath toys. They went overboard in 1992, and beachcombers all over the world are still coming across rubber ducks today, like almost 30 years later. Many of the toys have floated ashore, but there are still thousands of them bobbing through the high seas, following the ocean's many currents and gyres. Although most people would prefer that 28,000 pollutants hadn't entered the ocean, the toys have had a positive side effect in that they have revolutionized our understanding of ocean currents. The ducks were abandoned in the middle of the Pacific Ocean while on a voyage from Hong Kong to the United States, and they've since shown up in far-off places like South Africa, Australia, Hawaii, Alaska, Scotland, Newfoundland, and the Atlantic. Some are even frozen in Arctic ice. Most notably, tracking the ducks' movements enabled oceanographers to better understand the circuit of the North Pacific Gyre and brought attention to the ocean garbage patch that lies within. It's estimated that more than 2,000 ducks are drifting amid the massive amount of trash and sludge that has been caught in the gyre's currents. 8. Giant Lego Man. You never know what kind of flotsam you'll discover while taking a stroll down the shore. Yet even for the most experienced beachcomber, stumbling across an 8-foot-tall, 100-pound Lego Man is entirely unexpected. Nevertheless, versions of Ego Leonard have apparently washed ashore on at least 4 beaches throughout the world. The first Ego Leonard sighting was in 2007, when the colorful sculpture was retrieved from a sea near the Netherlands. The following year, he was found on Brighton Beach, UK. In 2001, he showed up at Shasta Key Beach, Florida. And in 2012, he appeared on a beach in Los Angeles, California. Ego Leonard always has the message, "No real than you are," printed on his torso, adding a somewhat eerie and grammatically dubious element to an otherwise delightful fellow. 7. Giant Eyeball. As if sharks and jellyfish weren't bad enough, we now have yet another reason to get the heebie-jeebies when stepping into the ocean: enormous floating eyeballs. In 2012, a softball-sized eyeball floated onto the sand in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It was discovered by a man who kicked it about a few times before taking it home and putting it in his refrigerator. Luckily, he didn't intend on having the peeper for lunch and was simply trying to keep it fresh until someone from Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission could retrieve it and identify it. Naturally, rumors of a colossal sea monster started to spread throughout the area. Wildlife authorities quickly spoiled the fun by identifying the oversized oculus as being to a large swordfish, a species that can reach 1,400 pounds. So how did the eyeball end up on the beach? The FWC said that although it was certainly rare to find a fully intact eyeball separated from any other body parts, this one had clear, straight lines cut around the tissue, which means that some creepy fisherman painstakingly cut out the baby blue and then tossed it overboard. 6. Bananas. In 2007, residents of 2 Dutch North Sea islands must have thought they were blessed by the fruit gods when thousands of unripe bananas swept onto their shores. In reality, they came from yet another container that had fallen off a cargo ship during a storm. Crowds of banana seekers showed up to gather the fruit, undoubtedly with visions of smoothie and bread recipes in their head. In fact, there were so many bananas littering the coastline that some suggested that they donate them to a nearby zoo. For longtime locals of these islands, collecting strange things from the sand is nothing new. Favorable currents, strong northwesterly winds, and nearby shipping routes make the islands a target for about 2 tons of debris per day. In years past, they've seen their beaches covered with aluminum briefcases, children's toys, sweaters, and sneakers, among other things. 5. Dead birds. Botulism poisoning is the official cause of 6,000 birds turning up dead on Wasaga Beach, Ontario in 2011. Botulism has been on the rise in the Great Lakes. It infects fish and is then passed on to waterfowl when they ingest the prey. While it is not uncommon to find individual fish and birds who are killed by toxins, the 2011 incident was especially unusual. What's causing the increase in botulism? Scientists say that it's a combination of gradually warming waters, increasing oxygen-deprived conditions, and higher levels of bacteria. One theory is that an invasive species, like zebra and quagga mussels, are exacerbating the problem. Despite all the talk of toxins, authorities say that it's still safe to swim and eat fish from the Great Lakes. 4. Nike sneakers. If you're walking along the shore and happen to find a Nike sneaker with the code 900406, then you may have discovered one of the famed 60,000 Nikes that fell from a storm-tossed ship in 1990. Just as they were plunged into excitement by the rubber ducks, scientists have tracked these shoes for decades in an effort to learn more about the ocean's currents. The sneakers could float for 10 years, and surprisingly, they were still wearable after 3, which turned several seashores into impromptu swap meets as people scrambled to find matching pairs of shoes. Even more shoes have been spilled since 1990, so if you ever find yourself strapped for cash and needing a new pair of kicks, try your luck at the beach. 3. Severed feet. On second thought, you might want to think twice before picking up an abandoned shoe in the sand, as there's a fair chance it could contain a human foot. This is especially true if you live in British Columbia or the Pacific Northwest of the United States. Since 2007, beachgoers have found at least 10 shoe-clad feet in these areas, and 5 of them were tracked back to 4 apparently deceased individuals. The identified feet are said to belong to several missing persons, a person who committed suicide, and someone who died of natural causes. Currently, no one knows to whom the other feet belong. So where exactly are all the other appendages coming from? Authorities don't know for sure, but they don't expect that it's a case of foul play. One theory has it that they are the remains of those who were swept away in the Asian tsunami of 2004. But not all the shoes discovered were from 2004 or earlier, and all the feet identified so far belong to local people. Still, some of the shoes found were only sold in Asia, so it appears the feet are originating from more than one location. 2. Doritos. We imagine that everyone who was in the Outer Banks of North Carolina on November 30th, 2006 had the same catch of the day: Doritos. Due once again to an overturned cargo ship, thousands of packages of chips littered more than a half-mile of an otherwise pristine beach. This resulted in a chip free-for-all, where both humans and seagulls scavenged to get their fill of cheesy goodness. The birds gorged on open bags, while people scrambled to gather the intact packs which, thanks to their airtight seal, were still fresh. Some residents were a little peeved that folks seemed more concerned with getting free junk food than with cleaning up the federally protected beach. But whether motivated by greed or public service, the chips were eventually cleared from the sand. Mission accomplished. 1. Montauk Monster. No list of weird things to wash ashore is complete without a mention of the Montauk Monster. This waterlogged beast made its debut in 2008 on a beach in New York and has remained the subject of controversy ever since. Authorities could only view the creature via photographs, yet the pictures alone were enough for the East Hampton Natural Resources Department and multiple zoologists to quickly peg the thing as a dead, bloated, and decomposing raccoon. While some have claimed that the Montauk Monster's legs were too long to be those of a raccoon, zoologists have debunked that notion by explaining that raccoons are surprisingly leggy, and that their limb proportion actually matches those of the monster. Despite what the experts say, however, there are two major facts which continue to fuel speculation. For one, no one knows what happened to the carcass after it washed up, and only a few people have seen it in person. Apparently, someone carted it off to let it rot in their backyard, but no one's saying who or where. Secondly, the federally owned Plum Island Animal Disease Center, which has its own fair share of conspiracy theories, is located in the vicinity of the beach where the strange animal was found. All of this makes great fodder for stories of bizarre animal hybrids escaping Plum Island, and the government whisking away the carcass before it could be studied, bringing their dubious experiments to light.